Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being with us on this Friday at 5. I'm Leslie Adamy. At the top, U.S. residents could have extra time to complete the 2020 census. A federal judge has ruled the once-a-decade head count be extended through October. Reaction tonight from South Texas political leaders on that ruling in our top story. The U.S. District Judge also suspended the deadline for delivering the numbers needed to decide how many congressional seats each state gets. Those results were to be due by the end of the year. The ruling issued late last night says that a shortened schedule could produce inaccurate results. A coalition of civil rights groups sued the Census Bureau, claiming the shortened schedule would undercount people of color or underrepresented groups. The ruling is expected to be appealed by the Justice Department. And South Texas lawmakers are speaking out tonight about that federal ruling. Congressman Filemon Vela hailed the decision by the federal court, saying October 31st was the original deadline decided on after the pandemic broke out. And he says with the extension, it will give census takers the opportunity to ensure that rural communities and individuals experiencing homelessness are properly counted. Congressman Vicente Gonzalez also releasing a statement saying that communities like South Texas are often undercounted and need as much time and resources as they can, especially in this pandemic. And Congressman Michael Cloud also weighing in on the decision, saying it's important to get a complete census count in Texas to ensure the state is given proper representation and funding.